Good afternoon. We're coming on the air because authorities here in New York City have announced a major break in this massive manhunt for the suspect wanted in that horrific subway shooting in Brooklyn, New York, in what's been a very tense 24 hours across this city. At this hour, police now say a suspect is in custody. The news coming just hours after authorities officially named Frank James as the suspect wanted for the attack. James is now in custody, we believe, at the 9th precinct here in Manhattan. He'd previously been considered a person of interest, the suspect allegedly opening fire inside a subway car as it was pulling into the 36th Street station in Brooklyn. This was yesterday morning, as you know, right at the tail end of rush hour. At least 10 people were shot. Several more were wounded. In fact, 29 people injured in all. 5 of those 10 people were initially in critical condition. We learned throughout the day yesterday that their condition was then stable. It's just a miracle that everyone survived this, given the fact that they were trapped in that car as the train was moving. He unleashed smoke on them before opening fire. Police say the suspect was wearing that construction vest at the time, a gray hoodie. Witnesses said he was mumbling to himself minutes before putting on a gas mask, then setting off 2 smoke grenades and opening fire in the middle of that train. I want to bring in our investigative reporter, Aaron Katersky, who covers the beat here in New York. And Aaron, what are your sources telling you about how they got him, where he is right now?
They have tracked this suspect through multiple states, David. Finally, he was spotted by bystanders wandering around the East Village here in Manhattan, and that's when authorities responded and picked him up and took him to the 9th Police Precinct. We're not sure whether he has been formally arrested and charged, but he is now in custody. Frank James was named a suspect, upgraded from person of interest, after authorities were able to figure out he bought a gun in 2011 in Ohio legally from a pawn shop, and that gun matched the ballistics from the subway shooting. They also, from his credit card, were able to figure out that he had purchased a gas mask on eBay, very much like the one that bystanders said he put on before releasing those smoke canisters and opening fire in the subway. David, this manhunt was the most urgent priority here in the city and across the country with the U.S. Marshals. And Frank James, the 62-year-old, is now in custody.
Aaron, as you know, the city was on edge because he was still at large. You were reporting here last night on World News Tonight and throughout the day today that they had connected him, at least initially, to an address in Wisconsin, and then there was the connection in Philadelphia before they then searched that U-Haul truck. You were the one who first reported it was the credit card that they used. They found at the scene connecting them to that vehicle.
They found a credit card right there on the subway platform, along with a number of other items that pointed to James's identity. And once they had the credit card, they could see all sorts of purchases that he made. They knew the credit card was used to purchase a U-Haul in Philadelphia, and that U-Haul was found parked just a few miles from the shooting scene, right near a different subway station where it's believed that Frank James entered the subway system sometime on Tuesday morning. The authorities were able to get a picture of him. The camera in that subway station was working, unlike the 36th Street station in Sunset Park where the shooting occurred, where the cameras were not working. But that picture circulated among law enforcement along with eyewitness video, and the authorities had a pretty good beat on who they were looking for. It was just a matter of finding him, David.
Again, for those who are just tuning in, we're now on the air with live coverage of Frank James, the suspect in the New York City subway attack, the mass shooting that played out yesterday morning, now in custody here in New York City at the 9th precinct here in Manhattan. My colleague Amy Robach, who was on the scene earlier today, telling me the strength of New Yorkers. They were back using that same subway stop this morning. In fact, as they walked by her, they said, "Is it back up and running? Is this subway stop open?" She told them yes, and they headed back down in and headed right to work. The strength of New York on full display these last 24 hours. In fact, after this attack, you could see images of witnesses, bystanders, actually helping those who were still inside the train car and on the platform. Here are the images of the people coming off the train moments after that smoke that was let off on the train. He brought several canisters inside that bag before unleashing gunfire. I want to bring in Janae Norman, who is on the scene for us again today. Janae, I'm curious if the news has made it to people there in that neighborhood.
You know, David, it hasn't yet. We've not heard from anyone here that they have heard the news. We have not told anyone here. We're just getting this news in the last few minutes. But when you talk about the resilience of New Yorkers, I'm standing here right outside the entrance to the 36th Street station here in Brooklyn. We're seeing people coming and going. And you have to remember, this was essentially a 30-hour-long manhunt looking for Frank James. That means yesterday, after this happened during the morning rush hour, we still went through the evening rush hour. And again, the morning rush hour this morning without this man having been captured. And when we've got the updates from police and have heard officials say how this could have been so much worse based on what they found in the subway station after finding the shooter's backpack, along with 2 smoke grenades, 2 more undetonated gas canisters. They say they found gasoline, a bag of fireworks, along with that weapon, that Glock 17 9mm handgun, 3 extended magazines, 1 in the backpack, 1 under a subway seat, 1 that they say jammed in the weapon after the shooter fired 33 times. They say this could have been so much worse. It will certainly be good news to the New Yorkers who are coming and going from the subway station when they learn that Frank James is in custody, David.
Janae Norman on the scene in Brooklyn. And as Janae points out, that was another sort of incredible detail that we learned. One of the weapons appearing to have jammed, which obviously potentially could have saved many lives. I want to bring in our Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas, because Pierre, the FBI was brought in immediately on this case. Initially, the assessment from the NYPD was that this was coordinated. Of course, that led to immediate questions. Does that mean there were others involved? But at the outset of this, what they did know was that it appeared very well planned simply because of what he brought on that train with him.
Indeed, David. And one of the things we're hearing from sources that they did an incredible amount of work in the last 24 hours. Again, they do not believe anyone else was involved at this point. But, David, they were able to trace the gun recovered at the scene to a Ohio purchase by Mr. James in 2011. They also are telling me that one of the key things that happened is that initially there was some discrepancy over the height of the suspect. Some of the witnesses were saying he was 5'5". But when they looked at his driving record, he was listed as 6'2". In the hours after the incident, they went back to witnesses with those photographs and the videos that they had, and some of the witnesses ID'd him directly as being involved in the attack. Additional information, we found out that where he bought the fireworks from, allegedly. So all this information came in. They were increasingly confident they had the right person. Finally today, they laid hands on him, David, and the key here now is they believe that they have thwarted potentially other attacks because they felt this person could strike again.
Particularly given what they've now discovered around the city, not only with that U-Haul, but what was left on the platform at that subway station in Brooklyn. Our thanks to Pierre Thomas as well. Again, the breaking headline at this hour, Frank James is now in custody. He had initially been the person of interest until today when authorities then labeled him officially as the suspect. And that great detail from Pierre there. Initially, the reports from witnesses was that he was about 5'5". These are the kinds of things that the NYPD and the FBI worked so carefully to make sure they had the right person before going with these labels and moving in for this arrest. We've heard Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, repeatedly saying that they needed to be extraordinarily careful because not only did they want to apprehend him, they then wanted to prosecute him. Our coverage will continue on ABC News Live, abcnews.com. And I should mention that we are expecting to hear from the NYPD a short time from now. If and when we do, we'll be back on the air.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.